Sagt der Heilige Gemara. Amar Chista. Sach bein tefila l'tefila. You spoke, you were mafsik between the two tefillas. Sagt Rashi, bein shal yad l'shal rosh. What did you do? The siper, you spoke. Koidim shenich oishon ala rosh. After you put on your tefillin shal yad, you spoke out. The halach is chayzer umavarech. You have to make another bracha. Sach in, loy, sach, loy. So it's mashma that if you weren't mafsik, then you don't have to make another bracha. Al tvil shal yad omer baruch hasher kedishon b'mitzvosav v'tzivan alech tefillin and al tefillin shal rosh omer baruch hasher kedishon b'mitzvosav v'tzivan al mitzvahs tefillin. So you see, anyway you have to make another bracha. So what do you mean sach? You have to make a bracha. Even loy sach, you have to make a bracha. So Gemara Abaye v'Rav v'Amar Tavayu loy sach mevarich achas. If you weren't sach, you would only have to make one bracha. Sach mevarich shtayim. What does this mean? So Rashi learns loy sach ein mevarich ela al shel yad bilvad. If you didn't speak out, then you would only have to make one bracha, l'niach tefillin, and you wouldn't make a bracha at all on the shel rosh, which is what you were Shimon was saying about it's Friday. Sach mevarich shtayim. So you only make al mitzvah tefillin if you spoke out. Maybe then it's even a mitzvah to speak out. You know why? Because then you get to make an extra bracha. Maybe it's even a good zach. Maybe we think the Chesfarim are so good they don't speak out. Maybe it's good to speak out. So that's a little bit of a shaila. So let's have a look at what Tosfos has to say. So soch bein tefillah l'tefillah chayzim avarich. Oh no, that's not what we're talking about. But it's also an interesting Tosfos about sheichet. If he is mafsik between oifis, does he have to make another bracha? But let's look at the second Tosfos. Loy soch mevarich achas, soch mevarich shtayim. Pirish b'kuntrish, loy soch mevarich achas, bein shel yad, bein shel rosh. You only make one bracha that will be for both tefillos. Soch mevarich shtayim. Lo niach tefillin b'shel yad, v'al mitzvahs tefillin b'shel rosh. Rabbi Tamperish, no, that's what it means. Loisach mevarich achas l'shel rosh, meaning mevarich al mitzvahs tefillin shezuhi b'chasei. If you were loisach, so then all you would have to make extra on the shel rosh is al mitzvahs tefillin, because the niach tefillin is also going on it. But sach, if you spoke out, so now the laniach tefillin does not refer to the shel rosh anymore, because you were mafsik between the shel yad and the shel rosh, then mevarich shtayim on the shel rosh, because you need the laniach and al mitzvahs tefillin, which is what we do. V'chein kazav b'shimush rabbo the tefillin. The shimush rabbo was like Reb Shimon Nari's halacha book on making tefillin. They had like in those days they also had like practical halacha on tefillin. Out people write books about halacha, so it's not a new thing. They had it in those days too. It was called Shemush Rabbah to tefillin. They had a practical halacha guide to tefillin. So here is your machlokes.
You don't make a bracha.
But
I'm wondering if you're not sick.
Well, it's more of a meaning than the halacha, because we know Meikar din. Everybody holds Rashi is the main tefillin. But main tefillin, that is the shaila. The shaila is, do you make, if you're not tzach ben tefillah, do you make any bracha at all? Then the Mefarshim speak out, Voseb is on the shal yad, they make the lahaniach, and the shal rosh, you make al mitzvahs. The teretz is, because you have to make a bracha over l'asiyosan. Lahaniach means I'm about to put it on, you make a bracha lahaniach. Al mitzvahs means I'm right before I'm completing the mitzvah. So al mitzvahs tefillin, with the shal rosh, I'm completing the mitzvah still. Zog to Gemara weiter. Zog to Gemara weiter. Tana we learned soch ben tefillah tefillah. If you spoke out ben tefillah tefillah, aver hi biyadoi. It's an aver of a chayzer love ma'archem milchama. Now, why is it an aver? According to Rashi, it's a good idea. He makes second bracha. Zok Rashi, aver hi biyadoi. I'm sorry. Soch ben tefillah tefillah. The fourth one in Rashi. Soch ben tefillah tefillah v'loy birach al shal rosh ela samach al bracha rishona. Even though you were mafsik. That's what Rashi learns. Stamazoi soch, there's nothing wrong with. The problem is, if you didn't make the second bracha, averi v'yadei v'chayzer alav ma'achal muchama, kedim perk meshulch muchama, hayoy v'rachal levav me'averi shabiyadoi. See how kind of Rebbeinu Shalom is with us. He doesn't want to embarrass us by Neveir. So if you go back when you could have like a Ferlech Neveir, people say, nah, he probably was Sach by Tefillah. See, so people won't think you did something worse. Zok Gemara, let's hear if Tosha speaks about this. Avei biyadai. There's no problem. He benefits from being mafsik. Why? Because then he gets to make the second bracha that he otherwise would not have made according to Rashi. But according to Tosfos, for Keret, it's an Aveira because now you have to make the Haniach once again on the Shal Rosh as well. Zog to Gemara weiter. Tana kishu meniach shal yad v'yarech meniach shal rosh. The minig is you first put on the shal yad, then you put on the shal rosh. But ukishu chayleitz when he's taking off the tefillin chaylet shal rosh v'yarech chaylet shal yad. And the reasoning is going to be that you never want to wear the shal rosh by itself. You should always only be wearing the shal rosh when you're also wearing the shal yad. So that's the order of how the mitzvahs are presented in the pasuk. First, there's which is shal yad, which is shal rosh. And how do we know? Amar Rabba, Ravuna Asberli, Ravuna was Masber to me. Amar Krav, Oilete Tavos, Beinei Necha. Kol Zman, Shebeinei Necha, as long as the tefillin are Beinei Necha, use Shtayim, it's Vahayu. Vahayu Lete Tavos, Beinei Necha. Only if there's a Vahayu, only if you're wearing both tefillins, both the Tefillah Shal Yad and the Tefillah Shal Rosh, only then should you be wearing the tefillin shal rosh. As Rashi says, Kol Zman, she'oisen shal rosh munachim, oisen shal yad nami munachim. Amud rosh cholotz v'reisha. Tanu Rabbanan, tefillin meimosay mevarech alein. So what if you put your tefillin on when it was still night? As Rashi says, tefillin shenichan kodim amud hashachar. When do you make the bracha? You can't make the bracha by night. So the halacha is meis mevarech alein mishas hanachason. What does that mean? Mishas hanachason. Mishas zman hanachason. Domer perkam de brachos bekrishma acher moim mishayira chaveirei mirochik tal ramis. Right? That's called mishayakir. Right? Varin hasam litfilin kacherim, and we say there tefillin is like acherim, also mishayira. Kloimer lanachos tefillin is kacherim, meaning even though it's still not light yet, but it's mishayakir. Right? I think there's a big sign upstairs, and there's two shuls. One Mishayakir is. There's a Mishayakir sign in the back of the new Bismarsh and in the front of the old Bismarsh, because that's when you can make your bracha on tefillin. Ketzad, they don't usually have that sign in a minyan that davens at 8 o'clock. They usually have it only in a minyan where you might end up putting on your tefillin before. Okay. If you're a guest in the city and you go into a shul and you see a sign Mishayakir, you know you should probably, since you're on vacation, you should probably find another shul to daven in, right? Because otherwise they probably daven too early. Tanu Rabbanan, tefillin meimosai mevorach alein mishas nechasod ketzad hayamash kimlotzis l'derech. He was traveling and he didn't want to put his tefillin into his luggage because there's only a 10% chance that it would actually end up in the same destination that he's headed to. Umishori shema yovedu. He's afraid they'll get lost, so he wants to wear them. The halachas manichon, he could wear them. Ucheshiyis manon, and when the time comes to make the bracha, mimashmish bahen, he touches them, and then he could make a bracha. Rashi's mamashmus ki'ilu manichan. It's as if he is putting it on at that time. Umavarech alein. Vad masai manichan. And until what time? At the end of the day, can you put on tefillin? Acha tishka achama until shkia. That's the first shita. Rabbi Yaakov Omer. So this is the Tanakama. Rabbi Yaakov Omer acha tichla regel minashuk, which is much after Tzeiz HaKechavim. It's dark already, but long before bedtime. V'chachamim omer ad zman shina. You're allowed to wear it until bedtime. Umoidim chachamim l'Rabbi Yaakov. The chachamim amoidim to Rabbi Yaakov. Shem choltzon lotzeis lebeis hakisei. Oy likanis lebeis hamerchatz v'shaka chama shuv ein chayzer umanichad. even though Rabbi Yaakov says Achetich Regel Menachos, but if you took them off earlier because you needed to go out, then the halacha is you're not allowed to put it back on. Why is that? Rashi says why. The Laila Lav Zman Tefillin Hu Kidamin L'Kamon. Since it's Lav Zman Tefillin, you can't put it on, but you could leave it on, but you can't put it on. Omer Rav Nachman halacha Rabbi Yaakov. Rab Chisda v'Rabbi bar Rav Huna matzlu b'huborta. They would have a ma'ariv in their tefillin, just like Rabbi Yaakov, who said, "Achetich leregel min hashuk." I'm sorry.
It's more like
That's at night.
It's more like,
Ikadamer ain't halacha Rabbi Yaakov. There are those who say the halacha is not like Rabbi Yaakov. So let me just see if there's a Tosfos to peek at over here, because it's an interesting thing over here. Zok Rashi, Zok Tosfos, I mean. Yizman Memash ben Mevarch. Mikan nira k'sha'adam mashkim koydem hayoyim. Umisativ b'tzitzis. If someone gets up very early and puts his talis on very early before Mishayakir, k'shayar hayoyim, when Mishayakir arrives, ein tzarich lahaser talisoi k'dei lachzor v'lilbosh u'leisatei v'levarch. You don't have to completely remove your talis and put it on again, because mishmush works. The kibbutz mashmush boy yochai levarach afal pi sheyesh lechalek ben tefillin l'tzitzis. Even though you could claim the halacha by tefillin does not necessarily apply to tzitzis. Maybe mishmush helps for tefillin, but not for tzitzis. Mishmush mitzvah, because by tefillin there's a specific mitzvah to do mishmush. Kid lekaman, as we are going to see on our base. Nevertheless, einir lechalek the perek atcheles medavet tefillin l'tzitzis le'inyan mishmush ulevarach. So therefore, the same halacha that you have at tefillin, you could report on earlier, make a bracha later, that you could apply to tzitzis as well. So a very important Tosfos that's negei halacha. Rabbi Yaakov v'chachamim svirlu the laila zaman tefillin. They both hold laila zaman tefillin. So why does one say you got to take it off? What is the significance of that time? Once it's at the time where people are already in their houses, 8:39, 10 o'clock at night, now that's a time where someone could be tired. So we're afraid he might fall asleep. So we have our harchaka, don't leave it on until you're ready to go to bed. Take it off a little bit earlier so you shouldn't fall asleep. But Rabbi Yaakov made a harchaka tfei midirabanan. Now this is where it's a little bit of a shaila, because it's masho that the Rabbanan also have harchaka. The Rabbanan say you can keep it on until you go to sleep. What is the harchaka? Otherwise, you keep it on even after you went to sleep. So there's a little bit of a discussion about what this means in Tosfos. What do you mean he's making a harchaka at Fei Midrabanan? He's making a harchaka. The Rabbanan is not making a harchaka at all. The Rabbanan say you can leave it on until you actually go to sleep.
When they take it off, you put it on again. You don't make a bracha.
Are you talking about at night?
No, the tefillin. You go to the bathroom, you take it off, go to the bathroom, and then.
So you make a bracha again? I don't think you make a bracha again.
No, but we don't deal with it here. It's not. We're not learning that. Whether you do or you don't.
Right. The Gemara Tosfos was just discussing if you went to the bathroom after it was no longer Zmantville.
But the Gemara is talking about when you have to take it off.
Right.
You go to for a bath.
We didn't learn that now. Tosfos brought it up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Zok Gemara.
We're not learning about.
Not today. Ikadamer ein halacha Rabbi Yaakov. There are those who say we don't pass like Rabbi Yaakov, and you cannot keep it on until tichla regel ben hashuk. Zok to Gemara weiter on Amud Beis. Fragt Gemara of Rab Chisda v'Rabbi bar Rav Huna. We just quoted on Amud Aleph. Rab Chisda Rabbi bar Rav Huna matl b'borta. They daven ma'ariv in it. So if they daven ma'ariv in it, so what do you mean we don't pass like Rab Chisda? They daven ma'ariv in it. Zok to Gemara. Ahu pliga. So the Gemara that quotes that halacha Rab Chisda. So the Gemara that quotes in halacha Rab Chisda would argue on this. So Rab Chisda and Rav Huna, who wore tefillin at night, would argue on the member that says that the halacha is that you have to take it off right away. Tzkiya. Fragt Gemara, Mi Amar Rabba bar Huna Hachi. Did Rabba bar Huna actually say this? The Amar Rabba bar Huna. Safek chashecha, safek loy chashecha. What if we're ben hashmoshes time? We don't know if it's dark yet. So the halacha is loy chayleitz. If you're wearing tefillin at this point in time, you don't have to take it off. But v'loy meniach, if you're not wearing it If you're not wearing it, then you should not put it on. Ha vaday chashecha. So if it's vaday night, chaylitz, you got to take it off. So you see clearly that Laila is lav zman tfilahu. So how could you say that he holds you that he would daven with it at night? The member or Rabbi Bar Huna said that vaday chashecha, you have to take off your tefillin. That's not on a regular evening. That's because we have another factor involved. There's Shabbos here, and Shabbos you don't for tefillin. Now we actually had a discussion about Yom Tov, right? If Yom Tov was a noise, right? We said Yom Tov you don't wear tefillin because it might be a noise. So we're going to have a very interesting discussion about that shortly. So Dr. Micah suffer. What does he hold? He goes over Laila Zman Tefillin. If you're going to say that Rabbi Chisda and Rabbi Bar Huna hold that Laila is the Zman Tefillin, well then Shabbos Nami Zman Tefillin. Then you could wear Tefillin on Shabbos as well, because we're going to illustrate that you learn them both from the same place. He goes over Shabbos Lav Zman Tefillin. If you're going to say Shabbos Lav Zman Tefillin, that explains why in this brisa you take it off by night. Well then Laila Nami Lav Zman Tefillin. The mehecha, the memaita Shabbos, behasa memaita leilos. The same limud where we would possibly learn that you don't wear tefillin on Shabbos. That same limud is the mikar of why we don't wear tefillin at night. The Tanya, it says, and this is at the end of the parsha discussing Yitzis Mitzrayim and discussing the halachas of Pesach, but it sticks in those psukim as well the halacha of tefillin. So it says v'shamarta sachuka azois l'mayada miyamim yamima. I did that.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah. No, I'm usually guilty as charged. I welcome when you say that because many times I forget. Shemois Yud Gimel Yud. So let's just look at the psukim. Just comes a little bit more to life. Shemois Yud Gimel Pasuk Yud. So we go through all the psukim about what happened, and then it injects the halacha of tefillin. And then the parsha gets rounded off. So that's what we're darshaning. Mi yamim yamima. Zok the heilige Gemara. Yomim v'loy leilos, miyamim v'loy kol yamim. Not all days is there a chiv to wear tefillin. Prat l'shabbasos v'yamim tovim. Freit the Gemara. That's divrei Rabbi Yosy Aglili. Rabbi Kiva Oimar loy nemar chukazu elo lepesach belvad. When it says v'shamarta zachuka agazois, it's not referring to the tefillin. It's only referring to the halachas of Pesach. So basically, if you learn Rabbi Yosy Aglili, you learn from this pasuk that say you can't wear tefillin at night, say you can't wear tefillin on Shabbos. And if you hold like Rabbi Kiva, then you could wear tefillin at night, because Rabbi Kiva has no miyot whatsoever to wearing tefillin at night. Zog to Gemara, no problem. Nafkalei mehecho de nafkalei le Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva has a different makor as to why you cannot wear tefillin on Shabbos. The Tanya Rabbi Kiva over yochol yiniach adam tefillin b'shabbos v'yom tovim. I might have thought that a person is supposed to wear tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Talmud Leimer v'haya la'ois al yotcha u'letaytavos beinecha. Mi shetrichen ois. If you need an ois, then you have to wear tefillin. Yadu Shabbos v'yomim tovim shein guf on ois. Shabbos and Yom Tov are ois in and of themselves. So now the question is Hamoed an ois, right? And that will determine whether or not you wear tefillin on Hamoed. So now we're going to go through that sugya right away. Zog to Gemara shein atzman ois ben HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael d'chsev ki oisi. Gewaltig. So let's have a look at Tosfos. Very interesting Tosfos. Yotzu Shabbos v'yomim tovim sheim atzman kriyinois. Loy mishum da'asiri b'asiyas malacha. It's not because it's also b'asiyas malacha. Da'afilu chayil shel moed d'shari b'asiyas malacha ika ois. B'Pesach da'asur b'achilas chametz u'v'sukkos t'chay b'sukkah. So Tosfos is saying black and white. You don't wear your tefillin on Hamoed. Is that explicit? So right away Tosfos starts off with Armidik. Baruch Hashem. Ubeperek Pasha Moed Katan Mashma the Chol Shel Moed Chayiv. The problem is in Moed Katan it's Mashma that you're Chayiv to wear tefillin on. So I stop here. I don't include the whole Tosfos. We stop here, we're good to go. But in Moed Katan it's Mashma the Gemara the Chol Shel Moed Chayiv. The Yomar Hasam Koisev Tefillin La'atzmai Ula Chayim B'Toiva. You're allowed to write tefillin for yourself or La'Chayim B'Toiva. You can't charge Divrei Meir. So if you're writing tefillin for yourself, obviously because you need them, right? You're not allowed to do something today on Chol Hamoed if it's not a davar obvious. You don't need it for today. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Mayrim u'moicher kedei parnasasai eshaloi v'choshev la'atzmai. You're not allowed to tefillin for business, but what you can do is you can give away your tefillin to somebody else, b'derech harama, and then let's say somebody else needs tefillin. So give him your own tefillin as a gift. You're allowed to give it. Now you need tefillin, so you can write yourself tefillin. Oyri lei Rabba Bar Bar Chanel Rav Chananel v'chin oyri lei Rav halacha koisev u'mocher kedei parnasasai. So whatever the case is, mashma de meniach b'moed. It's mashma from this Gemara that you do it tefillin Chol Hamoed. The imishum la'achar Hamoed. If this is only being done, you're writing these tefillin to use after Yom Tov. Mali la'atzim, mali la'cherem. Lama mutar lichtov la'atzmai. It shouldn't even be mutar to write for yourself. She'ein zeh tzarich parnasasai. Miyulav right that mamashiraya because Efshin Reb Meir Yudel Tamayu the Islahu Shabbos Zman Tefillin. Maybe the old Shabbos is also Zman Tefillin. Back past the Erevin. Oidrami Yerushalmi. So he brings multiple rayas that you do wear your tefillin on Chol Hamoed, but we don't wear our tefillin on Chol Hamoed. Now the other problem we have is it's funny because the Gemara says over here the Baal Shabbos and Yom Tov is an ois. You don't need the ois of tefillin, right? But the halacha is you're supposed to wear your tefillin by a bris. You know why you're supposed to wear your tefillin by a bris? Because tefillin is a noise and bris is a noise. So it's exactly the opposite. So I think who does he quote from? I think he quotes from the Marsha. Al pishnai meidim yakum davar. You need two oisos. The milah you always have. So if there's no Shabbos and Yom Tov, then you have to have the second aid. You need the second oish of your tefillin. But on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you have Shabbos and you have bris. So mainly you don't need tefillin. So that's why by a bris avada you do keep your tefillin on. I think he quoted from the Marsha. I don't remember. Let me have a quick look. I don't remember. Okay, but he brought down from somebody. I have to know from that. Zog to Gemara weiter. Amar Belozer, Kol maniach tefillin achar shkia sachama over basei. If you put on tefillin after shkia, you're over in the mitzvah sasei. If Rabbi Yochanan Amar over balav, you're over in a lav. So lema b'Rab Avin Amar Rabbi Law kamifli. Let's say the machlokes is totally in whether or not you hold. I'm sorry. We're going to see it in a moment. The Amar Avin Amar Beloy Kol Makom shenemar hishamer pen va'al einoi ela lois haseh. The Mar is Ledrabavin, the Mar is Umar less Ledrabavin. Because what does it say in the pasuk? It says Hishamer. It says over here, Shemarta is a chukazos miyamim. The pasuk that we just referred to. So Shemira is a lav. Zok Gemara loy the chula alma is Ledrabavin. Everybody holds Hishamer is a lav, but you have to look at the context. If Hishamer is talking about something that's prohibited, then Hishamer means a lav. But even Rabbi Beloy holds Hishamer means a lav. If it's talking about a positive commandment, then Hishamer is on the same. Zok Gemara, loy the chula alma is lahu the Rabbavin Amar Beloy v'hacha b'ha kamiflagi. Marsover Hishamer the lav the Hishamer dasei is on the same. So who holds like that? That is Rabbi Lozer. Umarsover, but Rabbi Yochanan holds Hishamer dasei nami lav. It also has a status of a lav. And what are we talking about? We're talking about putting on the tefillin. So putting on the tefillin, the Hishamer would be a lav. V'yomer Rabbi Lozer, and Rabbi Lozer said, "V'im l'shamran mutter." If you didn't put on the tefillin because you wanted to wear them l'sham mitzvah, but it was only l'shamran shelo yevedu, Rashi says, then mutter la'nichen afilu la'achish kisachama, because you're not putting it on for a mitzvah, you're just putting it on to protect it. V'yamar Ravina, havi yisivna kamed Ravashi. I was once sitting in front of Ravashi. Here the girsa is very, very impactful. It's very important. Kamed Ravashi, v'chashach, and it got dark, v'heniach tefillin, and he put on tefillin. There are those, if you look at the Shita, he brings in a different girsa. He was wearing tefillin and he didn't take it off. So he makes a huge nafkamina if you're allowed to lechatchila put it on, if you have a ride from Rabashi. V'amri la, And I asked him, L'shamram kabaylu, are you probably wearing them to watch them because you wouldn't put on tefillin at night? L'shamram kabaylu mar? He said yes, but I saw that he was lying to me. I knew that he was wearing it because he held as a mitzvah to wear tefillin by night. It must be that he held the halacha, you're supposed to wear tefillin at night, but you don't tell people to. Why don't you tell people to? Shema yishakchem v'yoshem behem. Even though it's a mitzvah to wear tefillin by night, he still held better not to wear for most people because they might fall asleep in it. But he himself wore, but he didn't want it to be publicized that he wore, and therefore he. When they asked him, is it because you're watching them? He said yes. I don't know how he could lie unless could be that was also why he was wearing them. Because there's a famous story with Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky that somebody asked him when he was younger. So when is teaching unti Rabbi Tam? So Rabbi Yaakov says, when the so when he hit 90, he realized that, I have a nether, right? And Rabbi Yaakov was teaching Emes Yaakov, he only wanted to say the truth, so he started putting on film. But he didn't need people to say, Kamenetsky wears film, and then people are going to, Rabbi Tam film, Rashi. So he would be mocked, no one ever saw him wearing film. He used to wear it in his bedroom only, with the door closed, never even in his living room dining room. He definitely didn't put it on in shul, but he put it on where no one was able to ever see him.
So how do we know about it?
I wonder if his Einiklach must have said it over. Okay, sagt Gemara weiter. So Keshav Halacha Bein Moirin Kein. Amar Rabba Bar Huna Chayav Adam Lemashmesh B'Tfilin B'Chol Shah. This is what Rashi was referencing at the beginning of the daf. A person has to always be touching his tefillin. Kavachaymer mitzitz. It's a kavachaymer from the tzitz. Uma tzitz she'ein bo el askar achas. The tzitz has one name of Hashem, which is Kodesh Hashem. Nevertheless, Amar Torah B'Oyal Metzchay Tamid. It has to be on his mind. Shalosh Asiach Daita Mimenu. Tefillin sheyesh ba askar harbe alachas kama v'kama. So this is a very interesting halacha. Why is it a very interesting halacha? Is because he brings down from somebody that I don't understand. If you're constantly focused on your tefillin, how could you have kavanah on your Shmoneh Esrei? I didn't understand the kasha. So what it must mean is, read of the Shita, that Hesach Hadas is what you're not allowed to do. But you don't have to have an active kavanah thinking about your tefillin the whole time, because then you can't have kavanah by davening. It just means don't forget about them.
You have none of those.
That's right. Okay, so Zok to Gemara weiter. Tell about Yotcha. You should put it, al Yodecha. What does Yotcha mean? Zu Smoil. You put it onto your left hand. Ataymer Smoil, you're saying you put it on your left hand. Or Eina El Yamin, maybe you put it on your right hand. Talmud Loimer, it says in the pasuk, the Gemara brings multiple psukim for this. Ach Yodi Yosta Aretz, V'imina Tabcha Shemayim. My hand was miyasid, and my right hand was Tabcha Shemayim. So you see clearly that Yodcha alone, Yodi alone, means Smoil. Another pasuk, Loimer, Yoda Liyeset Tishlachno. This was talking about Yael, who murdered Sisera. And the Mefarshim bring down, the reason why this pasuk would have been brought is because maybe the first pasuk was referring to the Yad of Hashem. Maybe the Yad of Hashem is Yad Smoil. But how to know by a human as well? Because it says, Yotcha Liyeset Tishlachno. She stuck her hand to the Yesed, the tent peg that she plastered through his skull, plunged through his skull. Vimina laharamais almolim, and her right hand grabbed some other thing. But akalpalim, you see that her hand Yoda is referring to her left hand. V'omer, and this pasuk, there are those who are not goyish because otherwise, what chiddush is there from it? Lama sashiv yodcha. We're telling Hashem, why are you pulling your hand back? V'mincha mikerev chedcha chalei. You're not punishing the goyim who are rishayim. Why are you withdrawing your hand? Again, yodcha is referring to the left hand. Zog to Gemara. Rabbi Yosy Hachayim Omer. Rabbi Yosy Hachayim says, where do you get a name like Hachayim from? Zok Rashi, Chayt my Meshuka. His nose didn't stick out. He had a deformed nose. So he was called Rabbi Yosy Hachayim. Zok Tosfos, how could you say that? V'tema hu loimer shekineyu b'loshin gnai. They made fun of him in his name because he had a deformation. It doesn't make sense. Ella al shem mekayma nikra kain. It must have been the place that he lived. Isn't that an interesting discussion? You find that the right hand is called Yad. Shenema Vayar Yosef Ki Yoshis Oviv Yad Yeminoi. So Oy Bazoi, it's slugging up the raya. Zok to Gemara ve'idich Yad Yeminoi Ikri Yad Stam Aloi Ikri. Stam Yad without a description means his left hand.
It's not rare to find the Gemara commenting on somebody's physical appearance.
Yeah, but Tosfos is asking not that it commented, that they named him after it. They called him Shorty. They called him Tubby.
Bar Karcha, Baldy.
That's right. But could be someone who argues on that too.
Love is beautiful.
Muddy says it's a compliment. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll be mamshich tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everyone should have an awesome day.